Morning, everybody. I'm Margie Odom, licensed marriage and family therapist and emotional eating coach with The Way Within. And I am on day 3 of 5, trying to help you deal with anxiety during difficult times. And today we're going to talk about triggers. You know, we hear that word a lot now. I was triggered or I felt triggered. And we apply lots of different meanings to that. But when it comes to anxiety, there really are some specific triggers. And if you're aware of your triggers, you can learn to cope within them, slow them down, and find replacement behaviors for them. So the first trigger is what we tend to do with anxiety is we tend to race or speed up. If you have ever noticed, like when you've gotten really anxious about something, and you've started talking about it, your speech probably starts to accelerate and you start to speed up your talking, like, oh my gosh, it was so scary, that kind of speech. Or maybe some people like are anxious cleaners, and then when you're cleaning, you're just like going at an extremely brisk pace. And what that does is actually sends cues to the brain that this is a time to be anxious and to turn on all that anxiety stuff. So if you notice yourself speeding up, the first thing that you can do is take a deep breath and intentionally slow down. That is something that you have control over. So that's really important. Okay. Number 2 is about perception. So, when we have a super realistic perception, we tend to think about what could go wrong, and we like to keep ourselves prepared, and there's some really good things about that. But sometimes we tend to be too realistic about all the potential things that could go wrong or potential threats. And we stay stuck there instead of allowing ourselves to see the positives. So we want to make sure that we balance being aware and being willing to look at potential positive outcomes. And then number 3 is generalizing. So, if you're somebody who tends to say things like always or never, then that type of speech can really affect the brain and how the brain perceives what's happening in your world. So, for example, if you say something like, I am always scared, then you're probably telling your brain, like, we need to make sure that we're scared all the time, hyper alert, hyper vigilant, instead of saying, sometimes this coronavirus stuff and the news really gets to me and it scares me. That's a big difference. And saying always or I never feel okay, those kinds of things can really ramp up your anxiety. So social, that's the 4th thing. Who are you spending your time talking to? If you're on social media, are you reading the posts that people are posting about mortality rates and someone they know being sick? And of course, we care about that. I don't mean to say ignore those things, so please don't hear me saying that. I'm just saying limit your exposure to anxious people, anxious posts, scary things, and give it to yourself in doses that you can handle so you're not constantly ramping yourself up. And the last thing I want to talk about is future thinking versus here and now thinking. I've mentioned this a little bit before, but anxiety is something that comes from future projection, like this could happen. What if this happens? And it's really helpful if you can focus on the here and now. What is happening today in my present world so that you can deal with what's right in front of you and only spend time thinking about future things that are realistic so that you can plan. But if you keep thinking about what ifs and you go into a negative direction, it's really going to spike your anxiety. So those are the triggers that I wanted to kind of make you aware of today. I hope it's helpful. I hope you'll think about those triggers so that you can start thinking about some of the other tips that we've talked about and how you might try to counteract some of those triggers or work with your own personal triggers to help yourself with anxiety as it comes up for you. So I'm Margie Odom, licensed marriage and family therapist with Odom Therapy. You can follow me on Facebook at Odom Therapy, or I'm emotional eating coach Margie Odom at Weight Within, and I have a Facebook page called Weight Within, or on Instagram, The Weight Within, and my website is weightwithin.com. So I hope that you will check those out. And stay tuned for more tips. We have 2 more days of our 5 to talk about how to cope with anxiety. And for now, I hope you have a safe, happy, and well rest of today.